What if I told you that one country went from having almost no movie theaters to having more cinema screens than the United States, the UK and India combined in less than 20 years? And what if I told you that another country has been steadily losing cinemas for more than a decade despite producing more films than Hollywood every year? The story of cinema isn't just about movies, it's also about infrastructure. Behind every blockbuster release is a network of theaters, screens, projection systems and audiences. And over the last 50 years, few industries have transformed as dramatically as the film industry. Today we're taking a journey through 4 countries: the United States, the United Kingdom, China and India, to see how each one experienced the rise of the multiplex revolution. By the end, you will understand why the global cinema landscape looks completely different from what it did just a generation ago. Hello and welcome to BoxOfficeBhaskar. This channel exists to pull back the curtain on the global film industry. I examine film through 3 lenses: the business behind it, the content within it, and the audience behavior that drives all of it. If you want to understand film at a deeper level, you are in the right place. Before we begin, it's important to understand one key distinction. A cinema and a screen are not the same thing. A single cinema building might contain 1 screen, 10 screens, or even more than 20. That difference turns out to be the defining story of modern moviegoing. For decades, most cinemas around the world operated as standalone venues with a single auditorium. But beginning in the late 20th century, the multiplex changed everything. Instead of 1 screen serving 1 audience at a time, cinemas could offer multiple films simultaneously, dramatically increasing both capacity and profitability. The result was one of the biggest infrastructure transformations in entertainment history. To understand how that transformation unfolded, let's begin with the country where cinema nearly disappeared altogether. By the early 1980s, British cinema was in a crisis. Television had become the dominant form of entertainment. Home video was rapidly gaining popularity, and decades of underinvestment had left many theaters struggling to survive. The numbers were astonishing. In 1984, British cinemas sold just over 54 million tickets, down from a post-war peak of 1.64 billion admissions in 1946. That represents a staggering 97% decline in attendance. The collapse was visible everywhere. Across the country, grand movie palaces that had once attracted huge crowds were being shuttered or converted into other businesses. By 1984, the entire UK cinema network had shrunk to only 1,246 screens. Many industry observers believed cinema going was becoming a relic of the past. Then, in November 1985, something happened that would completely change the trajectory of British cinema. A new venue called The Point opened in Milton Keynes. It wasn't Britain's largest cinema, but it was Britain's first true multiplex. Featuring 10 screens under one roof, modern facilities, and a significantly improved customer experience, it represented a completely different vision for the future of moviegoing. The response was immediate. The Point sold more than 1 million tickets in its first year, proving that audiences were still willing to go to the movies if the experience was compelling enough. Its success sparked a nationwide construction boom as multiplexes began appearing across the country. The result can be seen even today. The UK now has approximately 4,750 screens, nearly 4 times its low point in 1984. Cinema admissions have remained consistently above 150 million annually since the year of 2000, demonstrating that the industry not only survived but reinvented itself. Britain's story is one of recovery and renewal, yet even this impressive turnaround would soon be overshadowed by developments elsewhere. While Britain was discovering the multiplex model, the United States had already begun perfecting it. In many ways, America created the template that the rest of the world would eventually follow. During the 1990s, the country experienced an unprecedented cinema construction boom. In 1990, the United States operated approximately 23,700 screens. By the year 2000, that number had climbed to 37,400 screens, representing an increase of nearly 14,000 screens in just 1 decade. It remains the largest expansion in American cinema history. The driving force behind this growth was the rise of the megaplex across suburban America, Developers were constructing enormous cinema complexes featuring 16, 20, or even 30 screens. Located near shopping centers and major highways, these venues transformed moviegoing into a destination experience rather than a simple night out. By 2017, the American cinema network had stabilized at around 40,400 screens, giving the country one of the highest screen densities in the world at roughly 14 screens per 100,000 people. For years, the United States appeared to have reached a mature and sustained equilibrium. Then the pandemic arrived. The impact on American theaters was severe. Between 2019 and 2022, the country lost more than 2,000 screens, a decline of approximately 5.3%. What made this particularly notable was that global screen counts actually increased during the same period. While other markets continued expanding, America experienced a contraction that exposed vulnerabilities within its exhibition industry. Today, the United States still operates between 38,000 and 40,000 screens across approximately 12,000 cinema locations. It remains one of the largest exhibition markets on earth. But despite inventing the multiplex revolution, America would eventually lose its crown to a country expanding at a pace the industry had never seen before. If Britain's story is about recovery and America's is about innovation, China's is about scale. The numbers are almost difficult to comprehend. In 2007, China had approximately 4,100 cinema screens. To put that into perspective, that's fewer screens than the UK has today. At the time, China's cinema network was relatively modest despite the country's enormous population. Then everything changed. As China's economy expanded and its middle class grew, shopping malls began appearing across cities large and small. Cinemas quickly became a standard feature of these developments, creating a powerful engine for nationwide expansion. New theaters weren't just opening in Beijing and Shanghai. They were appearing in hundreds of cities that many people outside of China had never even heard of. The pace of growth was extraordinary. By 2016, China had overtaken the United States to become the country with the largest cinema network in the world. By 2019, the total was approaching 70,000 screens, a figure that would have seemed unimaginable just a decade earlier. What happened next was even more remarkable. While much of the world was struggling through the pandemic, China continued building. In 2020 alone, the country added approximately 1,000 new cinemas and 5,800 additional screens, representing a 10% increase in a single year despite global disruption. The momentum continued throughout the decade. By 2021, China had reached 82,248 screens, and by 2024, that number had exceeded 86,300 screens. That is more than double the entire cinema network of the United States. Perhaps the most surprising detail is that China's screen density remains lower than America's despite the enormous expansion. The reason is simple. China's population is so large that even 86,300 screens leave significant room for further growth. In less than 20 years, China built the largest cinema infrastructure in human history. No other country has expanded its exhibition network so quickly or on such a massive scale. India presents a fascinating contrast. It produces more films than any country in the world and boasts some of the most prolific regional film industries on the planet. From Bollywood to Tamil and Telugu cinema, India's output is immense. Yet its screen count tells a very different story. Unlike China, India's challenge has not been rapid expansion. Instead, it has been managing a difficult transition between old and new forms of exhibition. For decades, movie-going in India revolved around single-screen theaters, the iconic neighborhood cinemas, often referred to as talkies. These venues formed the backbone of the country's entertainment culture. In 2009, India had approximately 9,600 single-screen cinemas and only 925 multiplex screens. Over the next decade, however, the balance shifted dramatically. By 2019, the number of single-screen venues had fallen to roughly 6,300, while multiplex screens had grown to approximately 3,200. The transformation can be seen clearly in the state of Tamil Nadu. In the early 2000s, the state had around 4,000 screens. Today, that figure has fallen to approximately 1,165. Similar trends have occurred across parts of the country as aging theaters struggle to remain financially viable. The pandemic accelerated the decline. Industry estimates suggest that between 1,500 and 2,000 theaters, primarily single-screen venues, closed permanently during the COVID pandemic. Yet, despite these losses, multiplex construction continued, creating a situation where growth in one segment was offset by contraction in another. There are signs of recovery. In 2013, India's total screen count increased for the first time in 5 years, finally surpassing pre-pandemic levels. The country reached nearly 9,700 screens, and by 2025, estimates place the total at just over 10,000 screens. However, when measured against India's population, that equates to only about 7 screens per million people, one of the lowest screen densities among major film networks anywhere in the world. India's story isn't really one of growth or decline, it's a story of transition. Traditional neighborhood cinemas are disappearing, while modern multiplexes increasingly dominate the market, particularly in urban centers. The challenge now is ensuring that movie-going remains accessible beyond the country's largest cities. When viewed side by side, these 4 countries reveal just how differently the multiplex revolution unfolded around the world. The UK nearly lost its cinema industry before reinventing itself through multiplex construction. The United States pioneered the megaplex model and expanded rapidly before experiencing an unexpected pandemic-era setback. China built the world's largest cinema network in less than 2 decades and continues to grow. And India remains in the middle of a complex transition from traditional single-screen theaters to modern multiplexes. Yet despite their differences, all 4 countries share the same underlying story. Each has been shaped by the rise of the multiplex. The only difference is the speed, scale, and timing of that transformation. So, the next time you're sitting inside a modern multiplex, surrounded by dozens of screens and paying a little too much for popcorn, remember that you're experiencing the result of one of the largest infrastructure booms in entertainment history. And depending on where you live, that story may still be unfolding. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more in-depth conversations about the global film industry, and let me know in the comments which country's story surprised you the most. I will be back with another video very soon. Until then, it's bye from BoxOfficeBhaskar.